Okay, welcome everyone. To the Monday, December 16th, caucus and work session of the Albany Common Council. It's our work session prior to our regular meeting. Mr. Jimenez, please call the roll.
Adams. Present. Anane. Valorant.
Here.
Clark. Farrell.
Here.
Flynn. Frederick. Howie is absent. Johnson. Present. Keegan.
Here.
Kimbrough.
Here.
Love is absent. Robinson. Romero. Zamer.
Here.
11 present. We're also joined by City Clerk Shanka Jackson, Senior Assistant Corporation Counsel Brett Williams, Research Counsel Dick Iceland, Legislative Director Brian Jimenez, and Junior Policy Analyst Alyssa Kamara.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start with Mr. McGee. We have a resolution that was referred to the Law Committee's Resolution 131, 121, 24R for the council confirming the appointment of Robert McGee as Corporation Counsel. We're going to hear from Mr. McGee today. You mind having a seat? Just give us a brief intro, and then members, if you have questions for Mr. McGee.
All right, good evening, everyone. I know many of you, but for those of you who don't know me, I'll just give you a brief rundown of my resume and my time with the city. So, came to the city from the Legal Aid Society, Northeastern New York, where I did housing defense. When I joined the city of Albany, I joined as buildings director, and I was in charge of the buildings department for about 3 years. At the end of those 3 years, an opportunity to go over to Corporation Counsel's office. I've been there for about 6.5 years, serving as Deputy Corporation Counsel. Lately, I focus a lot on litigation, but I've handled everything that the office has handled. Looking forward to building on everything that Marissa's been able to do in her time in office. I mean, she has developed a really outstanding team. She's developed a very supportive culture and innovative culture within the office. And I'm looking forward to doing more of that and building on that going forward. So I'll open it to any questions anyone had for me.
Okay, and I will say that the purpose of this right now is it was referred to the Law Committee, but it's my intention to release it, the resolution from the Law Committee, so we can vote on it today as a part of our advise and consent process of the council. The alternative is scheduling a special meeting to do the confirmation prior to the 28th, which is the final date before it becomes automatic. So, questions, ask away. Mr. Nanu.
Yeah, I don't really have a question, but I would say that I've watched them from a distance. I mean, I'm not supposed to co-counsel, but I've watched Rob McGee from a distance, and I'll tell you this, I've been very much impressed with him the last couple of years, and, you know, everyone that kind of deal with him has spoke highly of him. My question is just more so is that when there's a disagreement between the administration and the legislative body of the council, like how would you handle it?
Well, it's hard to answer that kind of question generally, because obviously an attorney's obligations to the client. Sometimes, you know, when you're representing a large municipal body like the city of Albany, different elements of that body can have different opinions as to what their interests are. So, unfortunately, I'm not able to give a broad answer to that question, but when the situation presents itself, my hope is to provide a very clear, definitive answer as quickly as possible.
Thank you. I'll definitely support.
Thank you.
You want to, Mr. Ballard?
Yeah, I think.
Good.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Rob, for taking this on, and I want to thank you for your many years of service to our city. I think you're in a very unique position, especially with a lot of housing just with codes, with running codes, but also you're a key part in our moving forward with good cause conviction. So for those who don't know, Rob was one of what was one of the key elements in us getting the task first time and again the second. I remember many Zoom meetings back and forth. So many times when Rob was away with his family, coming in and taking the time to listen to the concerns and see how we can try to address them from the council members and from community. So I want to thank you for your leadership in that and for your commitment to our city. With that said, can you share with us how you feel your past experiences will give you the best opportunity to be able to not just give the administration the best legal counsel, but also help our legal counsel who run through some difficult legal hurdles at times.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you for that question. One of the things that I think a unique perspective I'll be able to bring to the office is someone who has served as the leader of another department. And then during my time in litigation, that's given me an opportunity to really get to know how really every department in the city is operated. And then, Councilmember Ballerin mentioned, I have worked with this council closely in terms of passing the good cause eviction law, but also several amendments to the ROP law and other matters. So I've had a fantastic opportunity in my time with the city to really understand how it operates and what folks are looking for from Corporation Counsel. So I look forward to delivering that.
Thank you. Ms. Farrell.
Thanks so much. And I just wanted to say that I've had the fortune to work with Rob a pretty good amount over the years. I'm very thrilled that you're taking on this role. I've been very impressed with all of the different things that you've done in the Corp Counsel's office. And I'm glad that my colleague talked about good cause, because I think that that's really when council members interacted with you the most beginning, and just have seen you do great things since then. So really looking forward to see the new directions that you took Corp Counsel's office, building on the success of your predecessors. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd just like to add to that. You've been around for a while. I think my first experience or interactions with you, I think I might have still been a police officer, and you were in the building department. So the work you did over there was pretty good. I helped over the years with a myriad of things. I think vacancy study, a bunch of different things that you had your hand in, and I think you did a very good job with it. So I look forward to working with you in this capacity. You look like, gray hair aside, you actually look like you're getting younger. But yeah, thank you for being willing to take on this, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. I typically like to keep my editorializing to a minimum, but just from the perspective of the office, Rob's been a great colleague and a great member of the team. He's an excellent resource for all of us in the office with his vast experience in pretty much every area of municipal law you can think of. And while we're sad to be losing Marisa, I think we're all looking forward to Rob taking over the reins. So take that as you will.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I think we're done.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, and that's for resolution 131, 121, 24 hours. Okay, starting at the top of the agenda, I will be, well, first we'll have a public hearing. on ordinance 66-111-24 by Councilmember Johnson for 31 Trinity Place. So in the next approval of minutes from a previous meeting, I'll be offering the December 2nd of 2024 meeting minutes for approval. And on to local laws, local law F, Ms. Farrell will be amending local law F of 2024, establishing the code of ethics and the board of ethics. That's the one law. The next, on to ordinances, we'll have the ordinance, with Ms. Frederick's ordinance 28-101-24, the budget ordinance, which we've been discussing an override of. So now's the time to speak if you want to be heard on it. Do you want to start? No, I support the override. I think when we're talking about affordable housing, the idea behind the changes that we made to the budget circle around that affordable housing issue. I know in the beginning there was discussions around with housing advocates around redoing the study, and I think we've kind of gotten off of that, and we're in agreement that we need to do something. The intent is not to, square the money away for the purposes of doing another vacancy study. We want to try to utilize that money to help out with our affordable housing issues. And so, to that end, I support it. Ms. Farrell?
I spoke about this at Caucus, but just to reiterate, our discussion in the Finance Committee meeting was the original reason for this funding and putting it in the budget. The discussion came up because of the potential for a second vacancy study. We chose to put it in as a broader for a broader intent because we'd not yet gone through the process. There was a lot of unanswered questions when it came to if we needed a vacancy study, if it was the right choice. But one thing that we did know and that we did feel as a finance committee is that we are in a housing crisis and that we need to do all we can as a community to address this. So if it was not appropriate for us to have a second housing study, then that funding should be used for something else to really look at the housing crisis. And one of the things that in the back of my mind, and not as the competitive grant program because we don't have the bandwidth for that, but the message for the Albany for All funding to look for something that really will make a dramatic change, potentially some sort of pilot project, or putting funding in a place that could make a difference and change. There are different potentials for that. We felt like as a body we could make that decision, and within the language said that it was something that $125,000 would be something we would have to proactively vote on as a body. We very purposely left it vague. The mayor in her veto message vetoed it because it was for the second housing study, which is inaccurate. That was one option for it. United Tenants is no longer looking for a second housing study. They don't think that is the right direction for funding. While we do not have something specific yet, there are some possibilities that we can look at. There's been discussion of emergency repairs with codes. We've had a lot of different possibilities over the years that we've talked about. I just think it's important for us to continue to do all we can to address the housing crisis, and I think that this money is potential to help solve that. And so I absolutely will be voting to override the veto.
Anyone else? Mr. Johnson?
Reluctantly, I will be supporting this, but I think that if we're going to use this message that we're going to help the housing crisis, let's put some money behind the talk. I think that, and this is just my opinion, I think that people have conceded to the study because they knew it didn't have any traction. They knew that it was going to get vetoed and no one was going to stand up for it. Again, not an attack on Faye Andrews or anybody connected to the study, but you know, I think it's wishful thinking to say that Albany got it right on their first try. I think that in the demonstration that was presented to us, it was a lot of holes shown by their office that it was reasonable suspicion to say that it could be, the numbers could be different. So I think that, once again, we're telling the people what's best. And I know it's our job to make difficult decisions, but I just have a problem with us not allowing an outside agency to put their hands on the opportunity to, once again, address the needs that our residents are facing. Rent is a heavy burden on families, and I think that to think that $125,000 is going to make a difference, even if we divide that up by 5,000, and those 25 people, it's not going to make a dent in what people are facing out there. So I don't mean to be negative, but we need a rent study. We need something to be done about what's going on in our city. Thank you.
Mr. Ballerin?
Thank you. I want to thank all my colleagues for all the work on the budget and all the work to find difficult compromises. Compromise is never easy, it's never fun, and it never comes without some pain. But this is a compromise that I'm very appreciative that we were able to work out. I know for some it's not everything that they wanted, but I also want to be very clear. Just because it won't be going towards study does not mean if the state changes the law, which there was some fraction and there was some advocacy for the state to change the law so that there was no need for a study, we may still be in a position next year without a study, just taking on, do we believe there should be stabilized rent? That may be a position we may still be on without any study, especially if the state takes the study out of the law. So I just want to be honest and open about that, because right now we're stuck in a study. The structure of the study, no matter who does the study, is flawed. If the penalty for lying on the study is less than a night out with friends on state, that is flawed. That's what the penalty is. It's a $500 penalty. So for these guys, for these developers, the risk for not being 100% truthful is very, very low. So the system is flawed, and there was works to correct that. But that has nothing to do with what we have in front of us. What we have in front of us is a compromise that was made by our members. A compromise that I agreed to as a member of the Finance Committee, that I am appreciative that was brought up by my colleagues. I'm appreciative for all my colleagues who supported that on the Finance Committee. And I'm appreciative for all my colleagues who voted for it as part of the budget. So we've already voted on this compromise. And I think compromises are messy. And as someone that has gotten yelled at by all sides when we make compromises, I know they can be messy. But when we make a compromise, we got to stick to it. Because that's what we agreed to. So with that, I will make it clear. I will not be pushing for any bill this year to use this funding on a study. With that said, there's a lot of things we can do with $125,000 on this issue. Housing is we are in the middle of a housing crisis. Many of us don't feel it. Many of us do feel it, let's be honest. I mean, we feel it in our own way. But we have a lot of our residents that are feeling it even deeper. So, again, I appreciate all my colleagues in coming together to come up with this compromise a few months ago, and I hope that we can all stand by this compromise today.
Thank you. Go ahead. No, you, Mr. Nani, then Ms. Frederick.
Well, I just want to echo some sentiment that was shared. You know, we're facing a housing crisis in the city that many of us, from the legislative standpoint, are very familiar with, because we're the ones that constantly have to deal with individuals when they're being evicted, individuals when they become homeless, etc. From the grocery stores. We're the ones that are actually on the ground talking to people about the housing crisis that we're seeing. And many of us are acutely aware through throughout many of the hearings that we've had, particularly during budget, and also some of the emails that we have received. Again, we made it very clear during the budget cycle that this $125,000 was going to be used for housing-related issues, not to do another vacancy study. So with that said, that budget included funding to make available for issues around housing. So for the mayor to say no to council members, you may not figure out a way to address the housing or pressing issue, it is quite frankly disappointing. And I think that the administration really need to give the council an opportunity to really figure out ways that we could address the housing issue, right? In this city, not all the solutions have to come from the coroner's office. Like, give the council an opportunity to be a real partner in figuring out this housing crisis. And this is what's in front of us right now. And the administration does not want to let the council do that. And I'm urging my colleagues, please, vote to override the mayor's veto. It is a clear message that this council can also come up with solutions that plague this city, because clearly something is not working.
Thank you, Mr. Nani. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you. I just want to conclude by thanking you all for your efforts in this process that we're going to go through tonight. I know we sometimes like to think that budget season is over and then we do trickle a little bit forward, but we are doing the good work for our city and for our city's funds, so appreciate your focus on this evening. The reality is this was a compromise made by the Finance Committee. We were not all on the same page about how exactly to use the $125,000, but we were all on the same page that we are in a housing crisis and that as a council we need to do something to address that. I was proud of the work that we did to come up with that solution, and I also worked diligently with the budget director in their office to come up with appropriate adjustments to revenue that are predicted and accurate to help offset this funding so that we didn't increase our taxes.
That being said, we also put in the appropriate safeguards for this money to make sure that the use of the funds are going directly towards a council vote. So without majority, these funds will not be able to be used for housing issues. So we all have to be in consensus on that in the next year. We are all looking forward to the results of the housing study that's being conducted by our chief city auditor. And we know that that's going to come with a slew of recommendations on how we can do better as a city. And $125,000 can make a difference. As elected officials, we are responsible for bettering the lives of our constituencies. And if that $125,000 can be applied and help people, even a small handful, out of the housing crisis faced in our city, that's a job well done by this body. So I encourage you all to vote on this tonight and override the veto. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along, we're into ordinances introduced. We have one that's going to be introduced by majority consent. It's ordinance 69-122-24. It's in relation to the Washington Park improvements. Everyone needs to understand that we add it by majority consent, but in order to pass it tonight, it has to be by unanimous consent. So just so we're on the same page with that. That's the ordinance.
Kelly, should we just talk about that briefly?
Sure.
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit at Caucus, but this is a bond ordinance that is connected to the Washington Park Playground, which is a project that has been going on for many years. Years of public input, years of community feedback. It is set to be, frankly, one of the most beautiful and intense playgrounds in the Capital District. The Washington Park Playground is a playground that the entire city of Albany uses, but the whole Capital District uses. And so the feedback on this playground has been coming in over the past few years. This ordinance, or this bond ordinance, reflects the city's contribution, but the reason why it's being passed tonight is that the state contribution requires the city's portion to be reflected and passed and preserved before the end of the year, and the council adaptation is a tangible documentation that the funding for the project has been put in place pending the issuance of the actual bond, and the Dormitory Authority is looking for that to be seen and passed before the end of the year. This is funding from Assembly Member Pat Fahey, soon to be Senator Pat Fahey, who's moving into that new space, not only because it's a Dormitory Authority funding, which is a very persnickety authority, but also because it's Assembly Member Fahey who's moving into the Senate. This is a time-sensitive passage that needs to be done tonight. And so I'm hoping for unanimous support from everyone. I know it's something that we've been talking about for quite some time, and again, it's just received such intense feedback from the community over the last few years. I'm sure everyone's seen it on social media with their requests for feedback from the community, attending different events, and people that have been in the park. So happy to answer questions, but I know that those that were at the last caucus, it was discussed quite intensely then as well.
Yeah, and again, this was a part of the budget discussions also. It was go ahead.
And I just would follow up and say the Finance Committee, this was lumped into our overall playground bond. We're doing our bonds on the exact same timeline that we always do. And there were further questions with some of the broader playgrounds that we had, that we still have and would like to continue forward. The Washington Park Playground it's been a very different process than most of our playgrounds are. In fact, it has not even gone through Parks and Rec. It has a lot of outside funding, and it's had a very different community-led process to it. which I think we probably all have seen the very long process that they've had, and really working to engage different community members and people that are really using the park and the playground. So it is a very exciting project, and I look forward to voting it, and I appreciate that we'll still be able to work through the questions that we had in our normal time period as a finance committee for the other playground projects.
Thank you. So moving along. No, to ordinances. So Mr. Johnson's ordinance, 66-111-24. It's the ordinance for 31 Trinities, the subject of the public hearing. What I would like to do, Mr. President, is we have a seeker resolution here that I'd like to do. Well, it's got to happen before we get to the resolution. So if we could do it early on, possibly. We could, after the public hearing. I'm going to ask also that we have the gentleman here from SUNY. I'm going to try to take them out of order. Is it okay if we bring them up after the public hearing, before the public comment?
Yes.
And so after we finish with them, if you would allow me and recognize me, I'll add a few things by majority consent and just knock those out, and then that way we can go through the regular agenda. Is that all right? Okay.
So you're gonna just add all this stuff from the majority?
I'll just add it in the front. I'll front load it, and that way when we get. Okay. All right. Okay. So then on to resolutions. So we got Mr. Johnson's resolution 137, 122, 24R. It's a resolution for the pilot for the South Mall Towers. That's going to be a referral to the Finance Committee. The next,
I think we were, because we had no objections at the caucus.
I wasn't at the caucus, so my apologies.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Sorry.
okay, yeah,
it wasn't
if
at
the
caucus.
intention was to move,
Yes.
we
had
will-
No objection at caucus.
we'll do that. Okay. All right, so we'll move forward with that. Then next we have by Mr. Romero, Resolution 138, 122-24, resolution declaring, first seeker declaring a negative declaration for Washington Park Playground Project. That'll be an intro and whole, because there's a timing issue for hearing back from DEC, and I forgot what the other state agency is.
State parks.
State Parks, okay, so it's intro and whole.
Could we actually have Kelly be the lead person on that? Just as a name, because I'm about to be out as council member and I'd hate to have to reintroduce that.
Sure.
Do you mind?
What's that? Okay. All right. Okay, then next, by Mr. Nani's, Resolution 139, 122-24R. It's a resolution for a seeker also. And it's in relation to Ordinance 68, 121-24. That is the accessory dwelling, I think, ordinance. That we'll be moving ahead with. And voting on. And then next by Mr. Adams, Resolution 140, 122-24R. It's for the celebrating the UAlbany men's basketball team retaining the Albany Cup. We're going to take that out of order. We'll take it right after the public hearing. Okay. And then we got two resolutions. We got the Chief Caucus resolution, which I had here somewhere, but okay. Oh yeah, Resolution 141, 122, 24R was Mr. Hoey's, but he's not here, so I'll do that on his behalf. And I think, did I miss anything else? Am I missing another And so for that, for Mr. Johnson's, just Iceland. So for Mr. Johnson's seeker unlisted action, excuse me, the one that Mr. Ballerin is doing, we should do that during that time period
Yeah.
also?
Yes, that should happen before the ordinance is voted on, because it does pertain to that ordinance. And then, so Councilmember Ballerin
You have
has
to do
a
it, yes.
miscellaneous business resolution regarding the secret declaration that pertains to a type 2 declaration for, I believe, ordinance 66, which is on the active calendar, but we just need to declare it a type 2 action before we pass it. So normally we do those during miscellaneous business, but I believe we're asking to move it forward, I believe, right after the MCs. In
Right,
that
so-
out-of-order block.
So I'll do the two MCs and then recognize them and then, you good? All right. So yeah, that's it. And then for miscellaneous, we have Commissioner Deeds. And then I also have, we're adjusting, excuse me, we're resetting the Violence Prevention Task Force, and I have a list of names that I'll do during miscellaneous also for Mr. Holt. And that's it. We're good.
Call to order tonight's Albany Common Council meeting, December 16, 2024. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams,
Present.
Anani,
Present.
Ballerin,
Here.
Clark. Farrell,
Here.
Flynn,
Here.
Frederick,
Here.
Hoey, Johnson,
Present.
Keegan,
Here.
Kimbrough,
Here.
Love, Robinson,
Here.
Romero,
Here.
Zamer.
Here.
13 present, 2 absent.
So please rise with me and pledge allegiance, and right after that, we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item of our agenda. We do have a public hearing. Public hearing. Anyone signed up or speaking during this public hearing, notice of public hearing. Unlike public comment, you'll have 5 minutes to speak on it. This public hearing, notice, and unlike public comment, period. If council members wish to ask you a question on your statements on the public hearing, they can do so at the appropriate time. So with that being said, can the clerk please read the public hearing?
A notice is hereby given that the Common Council public hearing will be held on December 16, 2024 at 7 p.m. and will be held in advance of the potential passage of the following ordinance. This meeting will be an in-person meeting in the Common Council chambers, City Hall, and will be held on the following matters. Ordinance 66, 111-24. An ordinance amending Chapter 375, Unified Sustainable Development Ordinance of the Code of the City of Albany by changing the zoning classification of parcel known as 31 Trinity Place from residential townhouse RT to mixed-use neighborhood edge MUNE and amending the zoning map accordingly. Documents may be inspected between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday in the office of the Common Council, 24 Eagle Street, room 206, Albany, New York, 12207. Efforts will also be made to make documents available for viewing online. This public hearing is held pursuant to guidelines established in the Open Meetings Law, and anyone wishing to be heard can submit written comments at the Common Council at albanyny.gov, email, or provide in-person testimony on the ordinance before the Common Council for consideration. The public hearing will be live streamed on our YouTube page, and we do encourage all interested parties to submit written comments by December 16, 2024. Anyone wishing to be heard will have an opportunity to be heard at the above stated time and location.
Do you have anyone signed up?
Not at this time.
We have no one signed up for the public hearing, part of the agenda, so being the public hearing closed. Now we'll move on to our regular order business. Mr. Kimbrough.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Motion to add ordinance 69-122-24, as well as resolution 141-122-24R by majority consent.
Is there a second on that? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. And did you want to add 140, did you say 141 too?
I did both. I did the ordinance and the resolution.
Thank you. And so now we need to take one out of order. Mr. Kimbrough, will you do that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Motion to take resolution 140-122-24R out of order.
Second on that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to notice resolution 140-122-24R, actually it's reading, but if I can just have a second to elaborate.
Well, you will have time to do that.
Excuse me. I'd like to
You will have time to do that once we
ask for it to read for its passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Albany Common Council celebrating the U Albany men's basketball team retaining the Albany Cup.
Now,
Thank you. So today I wanted to bring in the U Albany men's basketball team for several reasons. One, as a fellow graduate from the University of Albany, along with several others here on the council, I thought it was very important to highlight some of the achievements that not only the school is accomplishing, but the sports athletics teams within recent years. For me, I've been able to follow along some of their games, but also been seeing a lot of their highlights and stuff on Instagram, on social media, seeing the new players coming in, seeing some players return. So it's very cool to see that the basketball team that we went to school at, the program is growing, it's getting more attraction, we're getting great players. On top of that, if you had not got a chance to watch the Albany Cup, it definitely was a game. There were several plays that just blew the crowd with excitement, and we have some electrifying players on that team that drive straight to the hole, that can lay it up. So it's good to see that type of excitement, athleticism from the players on the team. And again, just wanted to also thank the staff, the coaches. Coach Dan is here, Assistant Coach Dan, along with the sports team's communication director. Sorry about that. So this evening we are joined by Alex Henderson, the Assistant Director of the Athletics and Communications. So just wanted to thank you for joining this evening. As you can see, not the whole team was able to come out this evening for various reasons, but we did have these gentlemen come in to represent for the team. So also like to again welcome and thank Assistant Dan. I don't want to mess up your last name, but Coach Dan, we thank you. Zach is here this evening. Zach is one of the players that I was just mentioning, the electrifying, high-flying guy on the team. We love to see you, and thank you for being here this evening. Makai, we appreciate you as well. Your addition to the team and your presence on the team has been big, especially in those critical times. So thank you for your hard work, the dedication that you're putting in day out to make sure that U Albany is the team in the city of Albany. No shade. Thank you.
Further discussion, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. What could you say about Albany right now? I read in the paper that this is the best start that they've had since they won Division I. And I just want to speak to Coach Killens. I had a family member that knew him before he came here, and the one thing that he told me, he said, D, watch out for this guy because he's going to do his best to connect the inner city to the university. And when I look over at Coach Dan, I never really knew his name. He just coached to me because whenever I reach out to them for Giffen, they're right there to support us. And the one thing that I can give Coach Killens and his staff credit for, that they have swung me. I was always a Siena guy. And, you know, in the last few years, I have rolled with Albany. So it's a blessing. I have been able to attend the Albany Cup for the last 2 years, and it's been really exciting games. And you know, I look at all of those players as family, and it's exciting to see one of our local players on the team and representing, because for many years that didn't happen at U of Albany. And so for that, I am in full support of the recognition that we're providing today. So congratulations to the team.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Nani? Can we say Mr. Nani? Very surprising.
I just want to really congratulate my alma mater, you know, UAU. I had so much fun memories at the university, and just to see all that the basketball team have been able to accomplish in such a short time with a new coach is just really commendable, and we really appreciate everything that the basketball team does. I remember, was it last year or 2 years ago, where you guys were on Hudson and Hamilton giving out tickets, free tickets to students to attend the basketball game, and other residents too as well. So you have our full support. We just want to wish you guys all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Mr. Ballard?
I'll be quick. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to congratulate the team, congratulate the university. As an alum, I can tell you, I remember being glued to TV, and so know that the alums are looking. Back in 2006, when the first time they made it to the tournament. So it was exciting back then. It's still exciting today whenever our teams are doing well. So thank you for your work, your effort, and congratulations to you and the university for continuing great work with the program. So thank you.
Further discussion? Well, I'd like to thank you guys on a win this year, the Albany Cup. I'd like to thank Coach Killens and all the coaches and the players for really being a part of the community. Growing up in Albany, Albany was a distance for the kids in the South End that we grew up in. And now the kids in the South End, North End, all over Albany, they can feel the presence of the university within their neighborhood and inviting them to be on the campus. So I think that is so important. And so that is what I look forward to see our student athletes in our city give back to our city. And that is the most important piece. So good luck on the remainder of your season, and we'll be rooting for you. So with that being said, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Farrow.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Johnson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Keegan.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Romero.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Thank you. So you guys come up. You'll come up into the dais and
few of them. Lucio, Alfredo, Kelly, come on, get in there.
Okay. Yes, yes, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Got an email this morning, like, seriously, guys?
No, that's okay. Good to be kind. Oh, they go deep. Okay.
All right, returning back to regular scheduled programming. We have public comment, right? Now we return to public comment period. Public comment period, you have 5 minutes to speak upon any subject matter you wish to speak upon. At that time, council members cannot ask you any questions or answer any of your questions at that time. If they choose to do so, they will do so at a later date, at a later time during the agenda. You will have a green light, means go. When a yellow comes on, it means you have 1 minute remaining in your comments, and red means conclude your comments. With that being said, can the clerk please call the first speaker?
Daniel Vaccaro.
And please state your name when you come to the podium. Name
Hi, my name is Daniel Vaccaro. Good evening, Albany County Council members. I'm here before you today to argue against the decision previously made by this council to add fluoride to our city's drinking water and beg the council to reverse its decision to do so. The world has honestly never felt more dystopian to me than it does today as I return from living abroad for a few years to the city of Albany, where I was born and raised, to find myself pleading with my government officials to not poison the drinking water supply by adding a known neurotoxin to it. There's a growing body of research studies from respected institutions like the National Toxicology Program, the Harvard School of Public Health, and many other medical journals such as the Lancet Neurology that have linked fluoride exposure to potential neurodevelopmental effects, notably lowering the IQ scores in children. Water fluoridation, even at recommended levels, can have negative effects on children by causing both dental and skeletal fluorosis. The biological half-life of fluoride in bones is anywhere from 8 to 20 years. Just imagine how much will accumulate over a lifetime if we start our kids off without their consent at birth. Adding fluoride to our water supply is, in no uncertain terms, mass medication of a population without their consent. This decision strips individuals of the right to choose what goes in their body and the bodies of their children. We live in a society, or at least we're supposed to, where the personal autonomy should be paramount, especially when alternative methods for dental health exist, like fluoride toothpaste. They're readily available, they exist, and they work, so why force this upon everyone when it's not the only option? Fluoride is a byproduct from the manufacturing processes of aluminum fertilizer. Ask anybody on the street if they want manufacturing byproduct added to their drinking water supply, and I can all but guarantee their answer will be no. We used to just call fluoride industrial waste, but manufacturing companies like DuPont used to have to pay to dispose of said waste in a safe way. And now they can magically sell it to the government? It's interesting to think about who really benefits here. And it's not the American people, and it's not the citizens of Albany drinking this contaminated water supply. Fluoride used to actually be used as rat poison, but we discontinued the practice because it's not biodegradable. So we had to stop because it's so toxic that we couldn't just kill rats with it anymore. It didn't break down in the environment and it caused serious problems, so we had to stop using it. Yet here we are adding it to our water supply. At a time where public trust in government is already fragile and rapidly deteriorating, this decision to add fluoride to the water, especially in the face of such large public opposition and scientific debate, will further erode that trust that remains. I'll close by citing the main points put forth by Yael German, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, who was the health minister in Israel in 2014, who decreed that Israel would end the practice of adding fluoride to the drinking water, and I quote, because fluoridation may harm pregnant women, people with thyroid problems, and the elderly. She also agreed with my feeling that fluoridation is an infringement upon individual rights. This is literally the government stripping away our right to choose what goes into our bodies at the behest of dentists. A horribly dangerous precedent to set, and goes against the very national ethos of America as set forth in the Constitution. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening. There's still time to end the madness and reverse course before forcefully mass medicating the population with a known neurotoxin. When anyone asks to put any amount of neurotoxin into your drinking water, regardless of what letters follow their name or how good of a dentist they are or what titles they hold, the only sane answer is and always will be no. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And clerk, please call the next speaker.
Mary Carter.
Hello, my name is Mary Carter, from the Delaware Avenue area. I'm calling about the issues that's going on at 45 Central Avenue, Townsend Apartments. An issue just came about where someone just got stabbed last Thursday in the chest, and he was doing too good. So the manager, Aaron Tanada, he didn't even go upstairs to see if the guy was all right or dead or alive or anything. This is what I was speaking about as I come to these meetings. This has to be taken care of. These issues, 2 years and a half, going on 3 years, I bring complaints and issues down to Albany Housing, and they're not following up with them. I mean, the guy who set the other person's door on fire, he's still in the building. He took over his mother's house and beats her up. I mean, Albany Housing know about it, so what are they gonna do? The other residents complain about it. Not only that, they still have crack houses that they know about, that the people are still living there and nothing is being done about it. People are still shooting up in the hallways, you know, falling asleep, using it as a facility to the bathrooms. I mean, it's just not right. So I'm thinking about, you know, going to the Attorney General's office and see what I can do about that, because there's a lot of things happening in there and it's not safe. My clients live there, and I'm looking out for them. I work for my clients, and I don't work for Aaron Tanada or Albany Housing for Aaron to tell me what I can do and what I can't do. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Can the clerk please call the next speaker?
Keith Irish.
Good evening, members of the Common Council present today, your last meeting for 2024. As you know, my name is Keith Irish, a lifelong city resident, most of which in the current 9th Ward. I'm here tonight to update you on last Thursday's PEG Access Oversight Board meeting and related info. Well, the meeting lasted a whole 30 minutes. Almost everything that was stated by board members, primarily the elected chair of the board, who happens to be a fairly new mayoral appointee, was such a farce, it was amazing none of them chuckled. There were only 6 present, barely a current quorum. 2 of your appointees were present. 1 was a no-show, and the 4th is still an open position, as is one from the mayor. So that means 3 current, unneeded voting stakeholders continues to be no-shows. Public comment period has been reduced to just 3 minutes. Amazing, considering that the whole idea of PEG is based on free speech. The meeting notice went out to only those that subscribe to the Notify Me function of the city's website. Note that the prior chair maintained an email list that hasn't been used since the last chair resigned and included some of you, but not all elected officials, a few program producers, but not all of them, and others that requested to be added to that manual list. So as you can see, basically no one saw the notice for the meeting being held. What a shame. A studio coordinator report reported an amount of programs produced during 2024, which when analyzed is no way possible considering the lack of being in the studio, the lack of program producers that get to a return phone call or email from her, and the number of show producers that have not been in the studio because of lack of contact, lack of hours, and lack of caring to promote and have open studio hours. I have talked to several program producers recently that haven't been in the studio almost as long as I haven't been. What a shame. Albany cannot wait for a new mayor to change this environment. Things must change now. Full council meetings and hearings need to be set up as soon as possible to receive input. Among these items is to stop paying Schenectady $10,000 a year to do what should be getting done with it in-house. Purchase the needed hardware and software for Albany to operate their own community media channels as soon as possible. Resize the so-called oversight board, getting rid of the non-needed deadweight positions, and have your appointees actually be caring, informed city residents, as well as several new requirements such as goals. Now that the new Spectrum franchise agreement was also passed with several flaws that should have been corrected before being approved, and the flawed 2025 city budget related to the PEG operations, you will be regretting these flaws not only for the 10-year period of the agreement, but in the 2026 budget needs. That's my formal presentation, but I have a little over a minute. I was at the Violence Prevention Task Force meeting last week at the Delaware Library, and for the second month in a row, there was no quorum in order for them to do any work. And this is, meeting before that barely met. I hear there's something on the agenda tonight that I heard the Violence Prevention Task Force about, and I know you were being informed, but I wanted to make sure the public was aware that members of that board have not been showing up. I would also like to say, related back to PEG, they made an announcement of when the January meeting is going to be, where it should have been scheduled for January the 9th, the second Thursday. It got rescheduled to the third Thursday, January 19th, because one member of the board, who is a non-important person, said they could not make that meeting. So they agreed to move it a week. Now, that person should easily be able to have someone else attend the meeting for them, but for some reason they go like, oh, I can't make this meeting. Okay, we'll change the date for you. That's not right. Thank you.
Thank you. Can the clerk call next speaker?
Tom Ellis.
Good evening, Tom Ellis. I live on 44 North Pine Ave, Albany. And I want to talk about water fluoridation for a few minutes. I appreciate the comments of Mr. Vaccaro. I don't think he said anything I disagree with. I just like to, I've got two things really. On the meeting on the 18th of November, I spoke and I handed to the clerk a copy of 2 letters that I had printed in local newspapers, and I asked that they be included in the official record of this meeting. 2 days later, somebody on the city council or somebody in the city government sent me the record of that meeting, and my 2 letters were not included in it. I emailed back to whoever sent me that asking why not, and I never heard any response. So I just want to make sure that when people hand in a document to you folks and they ask that it be included in the official record of the meeting, that it needs to be included in the official record of the meeting. I don't know if this is a one-time slip-up, I hope it is, but I know that during the last 15 months, several times I've handed in documents to the city council, and I hope that they're in the official record, and I'm going to find out, okay? The other thing I'd like to talk about is last year, the former Commissioner of Health of this county, Elizabeth Whalen, sat right here, and she said, quote, "We know that there are studies that show that Schenectady children have less dental caries than kids in Albany City," end quote. Caries is another word for cavities. Schenectady fluoridates its water. So if it is true that the children in Schenectady have fewer cavities, then that might be some evidence that putting a small amount of fluoride in the water actually reduces tooth decay. It still wouldn't prove that it's safe, though. So one of my colleagues, we couldn't find these studies. So one of my colleagues named Alexa, who you've heard speak here, who's an epidemiologist, contacted Dr. Whalen and asked for those studies, links to them or copies of them. Dr. Whalen replied to her, but didn't provide the studies. So we haven't seen the studies. So my question to all of you is, have any of you seen those studies that Dr. Whalen referenced? She didn't say that she had actually seen them herself. She said, we know that there are studies. So it's possible that she made a mistake. But I want to know is, have any of you seen these studies? Have any of you requested that she provide these studies? Do these studies exist? How many of them are there? She said studies, so there must be at least 2 if she's speaking correctly. Are they any good? Were they peer reviewed? If they haven't been published, then maybe they weren't peer reviewed. If they haven't been published, then maybe they have not been subject to any type of a critical analysis where people could try to find flaws in them. But the larger issue here is that if Dr. Whalen misspoke here and said something that isn't true, then she should acknowledge that. And I think that if that is the case, if she misspoke, then maybe you should start questioning some of the other things that she said here during the last year and a half or so, or 2 years, in her efforts to promote water fluoridation. So I'm not accusing her of lying. We all make mistakes. It's possible she misspoke, and I hope that that is the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I have another thing that I'd like to be included in the record. Okay, this is a new publication from Safe Water Albany, Albany Citizens Act Before It's Too Late. It's a December 2024 publication. It's 1 page. I'd like it to be included in the record of tonight's meeting. Thank you very much. Enjoy the holidays, everybody. Have a nice Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. Can the clerk call next speaker?
Marquin Jennings.
Hello, everybody. My name is Marquin Jennings. It's been a while since I've been up here. I think last time I came here, I was referred to as a...
Just state your address for the record.
Sure. 12 Grandview Terrace, Apartment 1. Okay. Yeah, the first time, or the last time I was here was for a very different reason, part of the LOC, Local Organizing Committee, Justice Cells, so I was used to being up here in a very different capacity, organizing for the people. A lot of the Common Council's members I have personal dealings with are still around, so it's good. It makes me feel good. Certainly working with you individuals, getting your positions, and I've been watching, whether you know I've been watching or not. And, you know, I'm happy with you trying to do individually. I know a lot goes into local government and what individuals can do, and, you know, what they try to do and their aspirations and so on and so forth. I'm here because I have 4 children. I'm married. And my wife woke up today crying. And if anybody is married, if your husband, you see your wife crying, you immediately think, oh, what did I do now? And in most cases, that's the case, you done something. And for most of my marriage, unfortunately, I did a lot. And to try to rectify the situation that you started is very difficult to do. And so in this instance, it gave me a level of gratification, but at the same time, still upset that she was upset that I could maybe assist her. In my home, I let my wife kind of govern everything, and if things get too difficult, then that's when I step in. And I'm sure most houses are ran in that manner. As I mentioned before, I've been here previous times at different capacities. And, you know, certain Kelly Kimbrough, Derek Johnson, Sergio, Jamel, who recognized my wife as an award winner this summer, was greatly appreciative of the honor. Anybody recognize my wife for anything, they are in good service with me for the rest of their lives, regardless of what happens to me and her. As I mentioned, Jared, Brother Wusu, so on and so forth. To get to why I'm here, dealing with vital statistics. I had 2 children that I had at home, my wife and I, Quinala Jennings and Malcolm Jennings. Yes, he's named after Malcolm X. And right in the middle of COVID, actually, my daughter Quinala was born. It was born at home, so we don't go through the whole process of getting records and everything. It's a little bit different than when you have a child in a hospital. It's all done for you, but we had our children at home. It's a very different beast when you have your children at home. It's a beautiful thing because it's just the 2 of you there with someone else. We had no midwife, it was just the 2 of us. It was a great bonding moment, and I was very confident my wife was able to have the child without any problems, and we did. And I'm thankful for that. Kelly Kimbrough helped me get a birth certificate for my daughter, but I'm having a lot of difficulty getting a birth certificate for my son, Malcolm. He has pneumonia right now, and you know you can't have acquire any health coverage without the birth certificate, without Social Security card. He has pneumonia, and so we have to pay some bills that are quite expensive to get the medication he needs. He is recovering, but he's been sick for a month. My wife has been trying for 3 years to get these records. And I mentioned this as an opportunity to kind of pull on any relationships, whether I have or don't have or assumed I have or whatever, resources for folks that when they made the Common Council runs, president as well, myself and my group were around. And all I'm asking really is just the opportunity to acquire these records. My wife's very, very stressed. I'm pretty low key and balanced, but when she gets to that level, then I have to step in and I have to extend myself, rightfully so, as my son as well, to acquire the things that is needed, and I hate to fail her when it comes to those things. So she's watching now at home, and she's gone through every aspect that you can. We mentioned some names here that we contacted. We don't have all the last names. Barbara from the Menands office, Michael Riley, Mark Johnson, National Vital Statistics. I don't want anybody removed from their positions or anything. I'm not calling for anybody's heads. I just need some help. So if anybody, anybody, I don't care who it is, can help me receive these documents so my son can get health insurance and be admitted to Head Start, I greatly appreciate it. My information's here. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no one else signed up tonight for public comment period, so public comment period is being closed. Moving on to minutes from previous meeting, Mr. Kimbrough.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer the December 2nd, 2024 meeting minutes for approval.
Is there a second on that? All those in favor? Those opposed? Approval of meeting passed. Moving on to consideration of local laws. Local laws held. Ms. Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I noticed local law F of 2024 and ask for it to be amended.
Thank you. Is there a second on the amendment? Thank you. Any opposed on the amendments? Motion passes. They're not voting on it. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to any reports of standing committees, ad hoc committees and reports. Mr. Kimbrough.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council Operations and Ethics Committee met on December 10th to review and amend local law F. And it passed out of committee with a positive recommendation with the amendments that Ms. Farrell is proposing.
The Workforce Culture and Ethics Committee met on December 4th to discuss our first year report, which was due to the council in December. Once we have the opportunity to finalize that document with staff, we plan to present to the council our initial findings from the first few months of work we did in 2024 in order to meet the requirements set forth by our legislation.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, moving right along, so we'll move on to considerations of vetoes. Ms. Frederick?
Thank you. I move to reconsider the following appropriation amendment to the 2025 city budget within Ordinance 28-101-24, overriding the mayor's veto. Account code A10107440, Department Common Council, account contracted services, description housing-related services, amount $125,000.
Is there a second on that? Mr. Anani, second. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Mr. Anani?
Thank you, Mr. President. As I said earlier, I will definitely be supporting to vote against this, to vote against the mayor's veto. Our city is going through a housing crisis, and it's very clear. Many of our constituents are struggling in silence, particularly the working poor and the working families of our city. Our city is facing a housing crisis, and this is not a time to create mass homelessness that many of us who are really acutely aware of, particularly we've heard in public hearings, the struggle of many of our constituents to find affordable housing. You know, very too often, a couple of years ago, there was a gentleman who was running and said that the rent is too damn high. And that could be said right here in Albany, where no matter where you live, you know, properties in the South End, 2 bedrooms going for $1,300, $1,400. With that said, during the budget cycle, we talked about utilizing these funds for other housing initiatives. Nobody said after the compromise was made, this was going to go towards a vacancy study. With that said, this budget included available funds to address issues that we see day in and day out. And I believe that for the mayor to say that no council member, you may not figure out a way to address this pressing issue is incredibly disappointing. I believe in this council, I believe in all 15 council members to come up with solutions to address our housing crisis. And again, I know sometimes the corner office would like to just come up with all the solutions to address the city, but I hope that the mayor could give us a chance to also come up with solutions that is needed to move our city forward, particularly when it comes to housing issue. Again, I want to thank all my council members for supporting this initiative during the finance and budgeting process, and I urge my colleagues to vote yes. Thank you.
Ms. Zamer.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Anani. And I want to thank the Finance Committee for their great work this budget season. I was one of the members that felt that a second vacancy study immediately after the one that was meticulously done by our Department of Neighborhood Services would not have been great use of taxpayer dollars. But that's not what the $125,000 is set aside for, as so many of my colleagues have stressed very publicly. In that respect, the mayor's veto message does not accurately reflect what our budget addition is actually intended for. Every one of us on the council knows acutely that there is a serious housing crisis in our city, and this is one small action we can take to help alleviate the enormous stress so many of our residents are experiencing. So I will be voting to override the veto.
Thank you. Mr. Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to be quick and short. I want to thank all my colleagues. This was one compromise which I have to thank my colleagues in finance and Councilwoman Phil and Frederick and Adams and Keegan for getting me to. I try to pride myself in finding compromise, but this was one where I was on one side and I got brought into this compromise, and I appreciate that because compromise is important. And it's not easy, but it's important because that's how government works. So I want to thank my colleagues, and I also want to be clear, this is not an attack on the administration. We have differences of opinions on certain issues, and that's how government works. You're going to have differences of opinions, and you're going to have to balance out those differences. But this body did make a compromise on this issue. This body moving forward with that compromise, I hope, after today's vote. And it's not a hit on anybody else, but when we make compromises, it's important that we stick to them. Because if we don't stick to them, then it's very hard later on for us to be able to come back together to try to come with compromises in the future. So I appreciate all my colleagues, and I appreciate everyone's work on this, because I know it took a lot of work from a lot of different members, I want to just say, Ms. Frederick, thank you, Councilwoman Frederick, thank you for going behind closed doors to find the money, because I don't think, I always want to say that it's always important because not everyone in the public sees what happens behind closed doors, and to go behind those closed doors is not always easy. So thank you for that, and thank you to all my colleagues. And hopefully this passes today. Because again, it was a compromise we agreed to, and I think it's important that we stick to those compromises. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
I'm going to say real quickly, thank you to our council leadership that called the mayor out for the move that she made. And I think that a lot of this is the direct result of that. And, sometimes you have to say what needs to be said. Thank you.
Further discussion? The clerk, please call the roll.
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Valorant.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Romero.
Yes, and co-sponsor if I can.
Zamer.
Yes.
13 in the affirmative.
Veto overridden, passes. Continuing on, Ms. Fredericks, we have another one for line 2.
Thank you. I move to reconsider the following revenue amendments to the 2025 city budget within ordinance 28-10124, overriding the mayor's veto. Account code A100116, Department Revenue, account cannabis excise tax, description revised projection, amount 75,000. Account code A10001120, Department Revenue, account sales and use tax, description revised projection, amount 25,000. Account code A10002401, Department Revenue, account interest and earnings, description revised projection, amount 25,000.
Thank you. Is there a second on this? Thank you, Mr. Nani. Discussion? Seeing none, clerk will call the roll.
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes.
Valorant.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Romero.
Yes.
Zamer.
Yes.
13 in the affirmative.
Override passes. Moving on to ordinances. Moving on to Ms. Frederick.
Thank you. I notice ordinance 69-122-24 enacts for its introduction by majority consent.
We already did that earlier, so.
With that
It
being
passes.
said, I notice ordinance 69-122-24 enacts for its passage by unanimous consent.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the ordinance?
An ordinance authorizing certain purchases by the City of Albany, New York at a maximum estimated cost of $1,623,250 and authorizing the lease financing or the issuance of $840,000 serial bond of said city to pay the cost thereof. Recreation, Washington Park improvements.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes, unanimous consent. Now we'll move on to any discussion on this ordinance. Yes, okay, good. Now, moving on to passing this ordinance, Ms. No, Ms. Frederick.
I notice ordinance 69-122-24 enacts for its passage by unanimous,
No, just.
by
just a
roll
regular
call.
passage, yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Since we already read the ordinance, any discussion on this ordinance? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Valorem.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Frederick.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Romero.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer. Yes. 13 in the affirmative.
Ordinance passes. Continuing on with ordinances held, Mr. Nani?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we amend ordinance 2791-24 to strike section 1 and 2 from the ordinance relating to ADUs.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this amendment? Any opposition to this amendment? Seeing none, amendment passes. Continuing on, ordinance is held. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you. I move to amend ordinance 62-102-24.
Thank you. Is there any objection to this amendment? Seeing none, ordinance is amended. Now, Mr. Valorem, on your secret.
Thank you, Mr. President. Resolved that the following action be classified as a Type 2 action for the upcoming state environmental quality review, and that the Albany Common Council is hereby designated as lead agent for ordinance number 66.111-24.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, can the clerk just call the roll?
Yes.
Anani.
Yes.
Valorem.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes.
Johnson. Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Romero.
Yes.
Zamer.
Yes.
13 in the affirmative.
Ordinance passes. Now, moving on to the ordinance where the seeker is, Mr. Johnson.
I noticed resolution 137.120.
No, ordinance 66 first. No problem.
I noticed orders 66.111.24 and ask for it to be read and passed.
Yep. Thank you. Can the clerk please read the ordinance?
An ordinance amending Chapter 375 Unified Sustainable Development Ordinance of the Code of the City of Albany by changing the zoning classification of parcel known as 31 Trinity Place from residential townhouse RT to mixed-use neighborhood edge MUNE and amending the zoning map accordingly.
Any discussion on this? Mr.
I ask for everyone to support this. They have big plans for Trinity. Trinity is serving our community, our whole family. There's so much I could say. Please support this ordinance because they have to move to use the ARPA monies. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani. Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Farrell.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Romero.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Ordinance passes. That concludes Mr. Kimbrough.
Sir, thank you. The rest of the ordinances on the agenda are held, and yeah.
Moving on to introductions of resolutions, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I noticed resolution 137, 122.24R and ask for it to be read and passed.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council authorizing the execution of a payment in lieu of taxes pilot agreement by and between the City of Albany and Capital Housing Development Fund Company Incorporated and South Mall Towers LLC.
Thank you. Discussion on this resolution. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can remember receiving this call, my first call about a pilot, and the first thing that I said is, I don't know, I will have to get direction on it. But as I followed through my years sitting here, I saw what us not reestablishing pilots, the disaster that it created. If you look at Bleecker Terrace, at a time that we're talking about rent studies and we're talking about how high rents are, it is important that we do a deep search when we think about some of these pilots that are going to be coming up in the near future in other neighborhoods. Tonight we're talking about 99 and 101 South Pearl Street. Today I had the pleasure of attending a Christmas party there, and one of the things that stand out about 99 and 101 is a lot of our elders from our community, and if that pilot, we didn't come to an agreement on it, they could be pushed out into this world of uncertainty when it goes to rent. So sometimes we have to think about the people over the money, because the money is causing problems right now with these properties that have been serving folks for a long time. Just imagine living in an apartment for 40 years and then you get a letter and then everything changes. So I think it's important that we have a responsible conversation when it comes to the pilots, because they can affect the everyday living situations of many. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Anani. Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Farrell.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Romero.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Continuing on resolution introduced, Mr. Kimbrough.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I noticed resolution 138, 122, 24R, and ask for its introduction and to be held.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council declaring itself lead agency for the State Environmental Quality Review of the Washington Park Playground Project and issuing a negative declaration.
Thank you. Continuing on, Mr. Anani.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 139122.24R and ask for its passage on a roll call thereof.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council declaring declaring its intent to act as lead agency for the State Environmental Quality Review of Ordinance 68-121-24 and declaring it a Type 1 action.
Any discussion on this? Hearing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Anani.
Yes.
Valorant.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Romero.
Yes.
Zamer.
Yes.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Moving on to resolutions held. Ms. Farrell.
Excuse me, Mr. President. Chief Cox, 141.
Oh,
What was the MC we
141.
already?
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Hold off that. Mr. Coley's not here, so you're going to do that, Mr. Kimbrough.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 141122-24R and ask for its intro and passage.
Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council confirming the appointment of Brendan Cox as Chief of Police.
Discussion on the resolution. Hearing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes.
Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Farrell.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Johnson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Keegan.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Romero.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Now resolution held. Another confirmation. Ms. Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 131-121-24R and ask for its passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council confirming the appointment of Robert McGee as Corporation Counsel.
Discussion on this resolution. Mr. Ballard.
I'll be quick. I know Rob for many years, and it's really been nice to be able to work with him for the last 7 years in the city. I think he's a great add-on to our city and to our city government. I was very excited to see his name be moved forward for this position. I think he'll do a great job. I think he's someone a lot of people trust, which is, I think, important when we're in this position. That's not a jab at anybody else. I just think he's in that. He's got that personality, and he always has. For someone who knows him when we went to college together and remembers being in organizations with him, he was always very knowledgeable and came off very knowledgeable, but more importantly, he always knew how to work with people and explain his position in a very clear manner. So I just wanted to say those kind words for Rob, and I hope we can move him forward today. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on.
Mr. Anani.
Bear with us just 1 second. Just want to, committee.
Oh, release. Yes. Yes.
So you have to release it from.
Right, that's correct.
Discharge.
Okay, let's make a motion to release resolution 131-121-24R from the Law Committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It passes.
Adams.
Yes.
Anani,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Valorem,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Frederick,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes, co-sponsor.
Keegan,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson,
Yes.
Romero,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Continue on with resolutions held. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice Resolution 134, 121, 24R as amended and asks for its passage by roll call vote.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council authorizing the levy of 2025 Business Improvement District bid charges and authorizing the treasurer to place such charges on 2025 city tax bills.
Discussion on this resolution. Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams,
Yes, co-sponsor.
Anani, Valorem,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Frederick,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Kimbrough,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Romero,
Yes.
Zamer.
Yes.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Mr. Kimbrough.
Thank you, Mr. President. The rest of the resolutions on the agenda are held.
Yes. And so let's move on to Commissioner of Deeds. Ms. Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice the following persons be hereby appointed to Commissioner of Deeds for the City of Albany, New York, for their term ending December 31st, 2024, and waive the reading of the names.
Is there a second on that? Term ending.
They should be.
Oh. Statute of terms. Resolved upon person hereby term ending December. Starting January. Go ahead, Miss.
I also notice the following persons be hereby appointed Commissioner of Deeds for the City of Albany, New York, for the term ending December 31st, 2026, and waive the reading of the names. And please note that while we do have this here, the intention will be 2026, and the record will show that.
Thank you. Is there a second on that?
I waive the reading of the names, too.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Kimbrough, we have the violence prevention.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Be it resolved on behalf of Mr. Hoey that the membership of the Violence Prevention Task Force be reset and the following persons be appointed Violence Prevention Task Force members in setting the membership of the body at 13 and waive the reading of the names.
Second on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Miscellaneous unfinished business. Ms. Romero.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have some thoughts. Tonight marks the final Common Council meeting of 2024, and for me, the conclusion of my time as the 6th Ward Council member before stepping into my new role as your Assembly member. And though my tenure here has been admittedly shorter than anticipated, it's been a really transformative journey, and I am a different woman now than I was when I first sat in this chair. The lessons that I've learned from all of you will stay with me as I take on the challenge of the state legislature. And I take this role very, very seriously, and my promise to each of you and to my city is that I will work hard every single day to make you proud. To my fellow council members, watching some of you fight for our city and our shared values has been such a privilege. And I'll carry that ssame spirit into my advocacy for my district and to our city. I'll never forget the battles that we fought together and the ones that I was able to witness some of you specifically fight, and you specifically lead with determination and resolve. In my time here, I've learned that legislation is actually not built in chambers. It's forged in phone calls and early morning coffee chats at Stewart's and late night brainstorming sessions and furiously long text messaging chains. And I've seen the really immense strength that we hold as a collective. I'm proud, I'm really, really, really proud of the many times that we've come together to show the city that we will do what's right. And we've shown the city that we will change and we will fix sometimes the decisions that others choose to make. That is the power of democracy. Together we prove that unity is our greatest asset, and that even skateboarding is still a surprisingly controversial issue. But above all, in reflection, this experience has taught me a really essential truth, one that I take with me, that the political world demands that you have to remain true to yourself, that you have to remember why you decided to become involved in the political process, that one must hold fast to your values and let them guide you, even when the path ahead feels uncertain, whether it's voting on an ordinance to protect city workers, or a resolution affirming human rights, or a local law to ban a weapon of war. Staying grounded in your principles illuminates the way forward. And I have felt very lost at times, as I'm sure many of us have. Many of you have been in these chambers much longer than me. But it's those core values and the phone calls to those that I know are principles, and the conversations with you that I hold deep in my heart that have always brought me back and solidified my decisions. Thank you. To those watching, the 5 or 15 watching this Facebook Live, or the folks that are watching the YouTube many years later, especially young people, my mentees, or anyone considering running for office, I ask that you be thoughtful and purposeful in your choices. Then take a leap. You might stumble, and you very likely will fall, but do not let anyone stand in your way. Democracy in its purest form is really, really beautiful, and local elections are won through relentless and very intense hard work. Always believe in yourself and your ability to create change, and just go for it. And finally, to the 6th Ward, serving as your council member has been the honor of a lifetime, and every moment of representing you has been a privilege. I'm profoundly grateful for the trust that you've placed in me, and together we've learned and grown and cried and screamed and fought for a better future. And I leave this position as your council member, but confident that you're in good and capable and familiar hands. So thank you to the 6th Ward for your support and your guidance and your belief in me. And thank you to everyone in these chambers for your guidance and your support and your belief in me as well, because you'll be seeing me around Albany, but also around the Capitol. So thank you, everyone, for the late night phone calls and the texts and the support that you've given me over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Romero. Godspeed to you. It's not goodbye. See you later. Ms. Carroll.
I'm just last meeting of the year. We always gather. So if anybody is interested, we'll be meeting up at the courthouse. I'm going to jet up there and order us some snacks. So I promise some snacks if you show up.
Johnson and then Mr. Anand.
So I wanted to say a couple of words to Mrs. Romero. You know, when we started out, you know, I didn't think that I would think the way I think about you today. You came in this room and you established your position in this room. And, you know, you have many firsts, but I think on behalf of the Black and Latino caucus, you're the first caucus member to go to the next level. And for that, you will always be remembered. But I'll just say this to you, as you know, I've said it since you won, that I feel like our voice is going to be heard on the state level. And a lot of people walk into politics to careers, and you know, you want to do the great work, but a lot of times you know, they find themselves protecting the institutions. And the only thing that I'm gonna ask of you is just keep the people first, because the people are the people that give us the opportunity to do the things that we think we can do. And a lot of times what the people really need and the people want is lost in the shuffle. It has been since, you know, I've been alive on the state level. And I'm happy that you're going to have that opportunity, and I believe in you, and I think you're going to do well. And I just say this, when I first met you, you were talking like you were an attorney, and I think that the law field might have to take a back seat to, you know, what you have started for yourself. So I wish you the best of luck, and you know, we're always going to be over here watching what you do. So, Malcolm Dad.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Gabriella, first, just want to say that I'm really proud of you. You know, you've been a wonderful colleague in your time on the council. Quite frankly, you have really been a steadfast advocate for the 6th Ward, and particularly all parts of the city as well. You know, I remember when you first got elected, just thinking about it like, what kind of council member is she gonna be? You know, like, she's gonna just focus on the 6th Ward, or is she gonna try to see the bigger picture that rising tides lift all boats? And you have been a really, really important member of this chamber. And I was, when we first got elected, just glad that you are here in this time. You have been a great policy-driven person. You have contributed to many important legislations that has made a huge difference on the council. And I know that we can always count on you, particularly when it comes to progressive issues. I know sometimes, you know, in this chamber or just in this city hall, you know, sometimes when you challenge the status quo, you feel alone. But I'm glad to have people like yourself that really pushed me to where I needed to be, which was being a progressive, because being a progressive is popular in this city. I've worked with you on numerous occasions, whether it was, you know, legislation or behind the scenes, and thank you for always picking up my calls when I have legal questions too. Now, also when people are facing hard times and challenges or need some legal advice. On a personal note, I am really proud of you, and I know that you are going to be a great assembly member. I remember when we first met at Madison Theater, when you said you wanted to run for council. I was like, oh my God, I think you're my district. But I'm glad that you did, and you have really made all of us proud. And I know that you're going to be a wonderful assembly member and a great partner to the council and all the elected officials in the city. I know you said to the young people that, you know, when you think about running for office, be intentional. And it's so important. You know, when they tell you to wait to start a business, you say no. When they tell you to wait to run for office, you say no. When they tell you to wait to get married, you say, actually, you wait for that. But actually, but seriously, I hope that Gabriella could be a role model for young people, for those who want to seek public office. And thank you for your service, and we look forward to continue to work with you at the state level. Congratulations, Gabriella.
Ms. Romero, you know, as you walk up the hill in your next adventure, we're pleased to have you serve here in this chamber. You've made an impact in this chamber. You made an impact on me the first time I ever met you. You were running for city council. I was open and honest about your race. So thank you. I appreciate it. But I appreciate the work you've done in this chamber. It won't be forgotten. There's a lot more work to do. I know you're up for the task. I know you can do it. I don't have any causes that you will always represent the people, and that's what's most important. So, congratulations. Go get it. Mr. Kimbrough. It's on you, brother.